So I always said I would show a video how to change your oil because I do it all the time here in the garage, but it's just so simple and basic I never remember. So actually I'm gonna show why Dodge Nitro is the easiest to change oil on. So, I mean, I've already drained it and filled it back up. Just got started up and check oil pressure and top her off, but I'll show you just why it's the easiest on this vehicle. That's it right there. Drain plug and filter right in front of your face. Right here when you look from underneath the front bumper. I mean, I'm just laying here. Got plenty of clearance up and down to reach my arm in here. Break the drain plug loose. Drain the oil. Spin the filter off. Spin the new filter on. Plug her back up and fill her up. So about a year ago, 2 years ago, I replaced the drain plug. We had this service somewhere at one point because we just didn't have time to do it ourselves, and they stripped that plug on there so tight. And I've done thousands of oil changes in the past, and it was honestly one of the tightest I've ever seen. So I've replaced that plug. I actually had to get a strip socket to break it loose and get it out of there. Luckily the threads were good. It didn't need to be retapped, but yeah, new drain plug. And now I got a new filter, and I change oil on every vehicle every 5,000 miles, regardless of what anyone wants to tell me. And that's worked for me. This is a 09 Nitro, just hit 180,000 miles, and just goes to show you take care of it, it takes care of you. So just a quick little rundown on why Dodge Nitro is by far one of the easiest to change oil on. All I needed was my socket, ratchet, and I just use my grip in my hand to squeeze the filter off. You can use a band wrench. That's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this old oil back in the container, take it down to AutoZone and throw it in the recycle bin. Waste oil tank, and top this off again. So there you go. And just to finish off, when you're done and you want to make sure you got the right amount of oil in there based on whatever the manufacturer says, this one calls for about 5.5, so I always buy 6 and top it off until I know it's for sure full. But when you pull your dipstick out, you're gonna have, you know, something similar to this, either dots or holes on the tip here, a fill line, in this case, a safe zone. And what you're gonna wanna do is make sure that this, the oil is up to right here on the top of the safe zone. And, you know, as you check it every 1,000 miles or so, if it's, as long as it's staying somewhere in here when you're checking it, you're good to go. But when you get to about right here, that's considered, you know, maybe half a quart low, up to maybe a quart, just depending on the engine size. So don't be frightened if you check your oil and there's nothing on the dipstick. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're empty and out of oil. There's a lot of other things that would happen or bring to your attention that that's the case. So it is a good rule of thumb and best practice to check your oil level, you know, every 1,000 or 2,000 miles or halfway between oil changes, just to make sure, you know, it's not burning any. It needs to be topped off. So after you change your oil, you just want to check this, you know, obviously with the engine off. And other thing I like to do is I like to lube this little rubber gasket on the dipstick here. That way it doesn't seize up inside the tube here over time, and keep that nice and clean and lubed up so it can come right out of there. And if you're confused on what type of oil to put in your vehicle, or what weight I should say, 9 times out of 10 your oil cap's going to tell you right on there, 10W30 in this case. But check your owner's manual, look it up, Google it, Heck, go to the parts store, they'll tell you. They'll look up your engine, make and model. So right there you saw that oil pressure, it looked like a little genie lamp, came on and went back off. That's your oil pressure light on this model. When that's on, you've got, you know, a low oil pressure issue, or, you know, it's an alert, but that should not be on all the time. So you saw it vaguely pop on there for a split second and go off. Some vehicles have an actual gauge like your speedometer here with the needle, and you know, your oil pressure will be right in the middle of that gauge based on whatever it's supposed to be at. So there we are at 180,000 miles. The number one thing you want to do when you're changing your oil, when you pop the hood, before you even go underneath and start touching anything, take your oil cap off. If you can't do that, you can't put oil back in your engine. Always take that off before you begin. At least make sure you can get it off. Make sure it's not broken off or missing, whatever. You need to have that on there. I usually set them right there by the latch. You can't forget it when you're going to close the hood either, after you've topped it off. So after running it, checking the oil pressure, I've gone ahead and checked the oil level after I already had filled it up and checked it, and it was up at the full line. But now you see it's at the bottom of that safe zone. So, you know, once you start it up, it lets that oil run through the whole motor. Doesn't necessarily mean it's not all drained to the bottom and it's actually full, but when you see that, after a few times, you know you still need to add a little bit of oil. So I'm gonna top it off with another half quart, and go from there. And when you're doing that, you never want to go over, you know, a half a quart max in between intervals when you're trying to top it off back to full. That way you don't overfill it. So there we have it, back up to full, right there at the top of the safe zone. That's where you want it. A little under 6 quarts, and when I drained it, only 4.5 max came out when I filled it up into the old container, so it was low. Forgot to check it before I started. That's another good thing to try to remember to do, is, you know, check the oil level before you start the process to see if it was low to begin with. See if you're burning on any oil there. So a little under 6 quarts fills this up completely. There you have it.